When you're flying en route on an IFR flight plan, you normally don't have to worry about your distance from clouds or the visibility. But there are times when you might find it advantageous to fly in VFR conditions at a VFR altitude, even though you're on an IFR flight plan. That's called flying VFR on top. And if you do fly VFR on top, you'll need to comply with the normal VFR weather minimums. We'll talk more later on about the procedures you'll follow to get and fly a VFR on top clearance. In any event, it's always good to remember the VFR weather minimums for the different classes of airspace, in case you want to cancel IFR while you're airborne. So let's take a look at exactly what the weather minimums are. First of all, in uncontrolled airspace, Class G airspace during the day. In Class G airspace in the daytime, as long as you're operating at or below 1,200 feet above ground level, your weather minimums are pretty darn minimum. All you have to do in terms of clouds is maintain clear of clouds, and your visibility requirement is only 1 statute mile for fixed-wing aircraft. For helicopters, you don't even have to worry about that as long as you don't hit anything, but 1 statute mile for fixed-wing aircraft and clear of clouds, as long as you stay at or below 1,200 feet AGL in Class G uncontrolled airspace in the daytime. How about controlled airspace or Class G at night? In controlled airspace, Class E airspace, or in Class G at night, they want you to have more cloud clearance and better visibility. In the controlled airspace Class E, you're much more likely to have IFR airplanes popping out of those clouds, so they want some distance from those clouds and some better visibility. And at night, it's just more hazardous, so at night, even if you're in uncontrolled airspace, you have to have the same weather minimums as you would in Class E controlled airspace. So what cloud clearance do you have to have? 500 feet below the clouds, 1,000 feet above the clouds, and 2,000 feet horizontally from the clouds. And the easy way to remember that is start with the 500 feet below the clouds and just keep doubling it. 500 feet below the clouds, double it for 1,000 feet above the clouds, double that for 2,000 feet horizontally from the clouds. And the visibility that you have to have is 3 statute miles visibility. What if you're operating above 1,200 feet AGL in Class G uncontrolled airspace? If you are above 1,200 feet AGL up to 10,000 feet MSL, it's somewhat more likely that you're going to have IFR airplanes coming out of the clouds there. Not real likely, but somewhat more. But more likely certainly than below 1,200 feet AGL, because down there they might hit the ground. If you're operating above 1,200 feet AGL up to 10,000 feet MSL in Class G airspace in the daytime, you need the same cloud clearance that you would in controlled airspace, 500 feet below the clouds, 1,000 feet above the clouds, and 2,000 feet horizontally from the clouds. The difference is, from controlled airspace, that you still only have to have that 1 statute mile visibility. So in Class G airspace in the daytime, above 1,200 feet AGL up to 10,000 feet MSL, you need to be 500 feet below the clouds, 1,000 feet above the clouds, 2,000 feet horizontally, but you still only need 1 statute mile visibility. In Class E airspace, which is controlled airspace, you've got those same cloud clearances, the same ones that you had below 1,200 feet AGL, and you've got the same visibility that you had down lower. In Class E airspace, up to 10,000 feet, you've got to be 500 feet below the clouds, 1,000 feet above the clouds, and 2,000 feet horizontally from the clouds, and 3 statute miles visibility. In Class E airspace, it really doesn't make any difference whether you're above or below 1,200 feet AGL. The important thing here is that you're below 10,000 feet MSL. In both Class G and Class E airspace, your weather minimums change when you get at and above 10,000 feet MSL. And why is that? Because at and above 10,000 feet MSL, there isn't any speed limit. Airplanes can go as fast as they want to up there, and if they're going to be doing that, then you're going to need, as a VFR aircraft, some more clearance from the clouds and some better visibility. So regardless of whether you're operating in Class G airspace or Class E airspace, if you are operating at and above 10,000 feet MSL, your cloud clearance is a whole bunch of ones. 1,000 feet below the clouds, 1,000 feet above the clouds, and 1 mile horizontally from the clouds in both Class G and Class E airspace. And how about your visibility requirement? Your visibility requirement in either case is 5 statute miles on that visibility requirement. Now, as far as the night operations in G airspace are concerned, we said that they are the same as controlled airspace as if you were operating in E airspace. That is true with one exception, and that is if you're in the traffic pattern of an airport, provided that you are operating at and below 1,200 feet AGL. In Class G airspace, even at night, you can continue to operate with clear of clouds and 1 mile visibility, provided that you're basically in the traffic pattern for the airport, and the FAA defines that as within 1/2 mile of the airport runway. That's Class G and Class E airspace. What about Classes C and D airspace? In Classes C and D airspace, a type of controlled airspace, the cloud clearances are the same that we've been talking about: 500 feet below the clouds, 1,000 feet above the clouds, 2,000 feet horizontally, and the visibility is the same that we've been talking about, 3 statute miles visibility. The difference here is it does not make any difference what altitude you are, how high above the ground you are, whether or not you're above 10,000 feet. If you're in Class C and Class D airspace, everyone will be communicating with the controller, and so you have the same cloud clearance requirements, 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and 2,000 feet horizontally, and the same visibility, 3 statute miles visibility, regardless of what your altitude is relative to the surface or relative to MSL. How about Class B airspace? Class B airspace is where our big aircraft are, and everybody is operating on a clearance from the controller, and you got to get permission to enter there. In Class B airspace, you need the 3 miles visibility, but in Class B airspace, because the controller is separating everybody from everybody else, you don't have to maintain a certain distance from clouds because you're not the one watching out to separate yourself from other aircraft. All you have to do is operate clear of clouds. So in Class B airspace, you need 3 miles visibility, 3 statute miles, but you do not have to worry about cloud clearance. All you have to do is operate clear of clouds because the controller is separating all of the aircraft from each other. Now suppose that you want to operate into or out of an airport and they've got a ceiling, a cloud layer over that airport. How high does that ceiling have to be? In either a Class B, C, D, or E surface area, meaning where that airspace touches the surface of the Earth, if you're going to operate underneath the ceiling in a Class B, C, D, or E surface area, you have to have 3 statute miles visibility, and the ceiling height has to be 1,000 feet above the Earth's surface if you're going to operate VFR in that area. Now suppose you go out to your local airport today and what you see is this. The rotating beacon is on, alternating white and green lights, but it's daytime. What does that mean? Well, it could mean that they forgot to turn the rotating beacon off. but it's more likely that the weather is below basic VFR weather minimums. If you're in class Bravo, Charlie, Delta, or Echo surface-based airspace, that means a visibility of less than 3 miles and/or a ceiling of less than 1,000 feet. So when you see that rotating beacon on in the daytime, you can be thankful you have your instrument rating, because you can still go flying.